Just Like a Girl vlog here at the Toys for Tots race. The Toys for Tots race is a one-of-a-kind race because our entry fees are toys that go to Toys for Tots for this Christmas season. One of my favorite things about this race is picking out the toys for the kids. So come follow along for a race day vlog with us. Super gripped up right now, so in practice I did start on S5s. The car was super wobbly, so I decided to try a little bit harder tire just to see if going harder on tire compound would kind of smooth the car out. I went to S4s, was still going on 2 wheels, so there's a ton of traction out there. Once I get to the point where I'm moving to S3s, which is one of the hardest compounds that Proline offers in terms of tire compound, I know that I need to make some setup changes on my car. So some things that I'm going to do before the first qualifier to see if it improves my car. I'm currently at 10-10-5 in my front, center, and rear diff. I'm going to go up to 15 in the center of my diff. That's a typical change when you're on a high bite track. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go stiffer on my shocks. I could tell that my shocks were way too light. We've been in some colder weather recently, so I've been running 45 oil in my shocks almost everywhere recently. I'm going to go up to 55 oil. I think I'm going to stick with 55 oil and changing the center diff to 15. If I still feel like in the first qualifier I have way too much grip, then I might decide to do something like going stiffer in my sway bars or changing to a harder spring. So we'll see how the first qualifier goes. It's going to be a ton of competition. There's so many people here for the Toys for Tots race, so I already know the Pro Nitro Buggy class is going to be crazy. Pro Nitro Buggy is the only class that I'm running, and honestly it's probably a good thing with all the wrenching that needs to happen when we're on a track with this high bite. It's the middle of November, but it's 75 and sunny here at Sumter RC. So we'll check in with you guys after the first qualifier. Alright, so we just wrapped up qualifier 1. Here's where I fell in the rankings of Pro Nitro Buggy. I'm actually pretty happy with a 7. When I was in my warm-up laps, I realized that the car was still a little bit edgy, so I really backed it off and focused on not cranking too much wheel in the steering wheel and all the typical things that come when you're on a really high bite track and your car is too edgy. I really tried to slow my steering down and focus on being smooth. The speed wasn't there, as you can see, but the consistency was, and that really carried me through in this round. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to take out a little bit more grip from the car, and hopefully if I can put a little bit of speed in the car and match it with that consistency, I don't know, maybe we can squeak out a top 5 in the main. But changes that I'm thinking about making, because I feel like the track is still going to be pretty high grip even when we go into this second round. I am going to go up on shock oil. I felt like 55 was still too light, and I felt like my car was kind of like wagging, loading too much, and that's what I was feeling during the qualifier. So I'm either going to go up to 60 or even debating all the way up to 65. I'm going to kind of monitor what time we think our race is going to be. I'm thinking about going to Yellow Springs. So right now I am yellow, blue. I'm thinking about going yellow on Springs. And then the last thing that I'm thinking about changing is the sway bar. I may go from a 2.6 in the rear and a 2.2 in the front. I definitely might bump the front up to a 2.4. So yeah, sway bar, the stiffer you go on sway bar, the more it helps your car from rolling, especially when you're on a high bite track. So that's a typical change too, is to go up on sway bar. So thinking about sway bar, thinking about going a little bit heavier on spring, but what I'm definitely doing is changing the shock. I will either be going to 60 weight shock oil or 65 weight shock oil to see if we can put a little bit more speed in this thing for the second qualifier. it's one I'd love to forget, to be honest, but I feel like I need to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here are the results for the second qualifier. Basically, everybody that I was super proud of beating in the first one beat me in the second one. It was definitely a rougher second qualifier for me. I did not like my tire choice and unsure of what my setup changes really did to the car, because the car was a little bit uncomfortable, and so we're the underdogs now. We got to make it out of the B main, but good positive vibes for the B main. I know that this car has good speed in it. The first qualifier was where I felt like the car really had its most potential, and I feel like we could go even more that way. So some things that I'm going to change for the B main, and going to at least try to test if hopefully I can get myself out of the B main and figure out where I'm going to land setup wise for the A main. I'm going to change tires. So we're going to take the S3s off. I did not like the S3 tires. I was timing our qualifier and hoping that our second qualifier was going to fall more towards the 415, 4-ish range, but it fell more towards 430, 445. And in November, the sun sets really early. We're past the time change, and so by 5:15, 5:30, the sun's completely down, and the track was definitely a little different. I feel like all these setup changes in the tires would have been perfect for the first qualifier, but the S3s were a little bit too hard for this second qualifier. What I felt like was happening is going into the turns, it was trying to grab traction, and when it didn't find traction, then it was just sliding out, and it didn't feel good. So things that we are going to change for the B main: we're going to change tires. We're going to take those S3s off. Did some testing before the main started, and the clays were not bad. So we're going to try clays in the B main and see how clays work, but I'm not going to sauce. A lot of times we do sauce with clays, but with how much grip is still on the track right now, I don't think the clays need to be sauced for them to work. So we're going to send it on clays, no sauce, and hopefully they don't take too long to come in. Next thing that I'm going to change is I felt like going up to a 2.4 front sway bar, which is a typical change for high bite. I felt like it took too much steering out of the car for me. So to bring a little bit of that back, I'm going to go back to my 2.2 front sway bar. And then the last change that I'm going to make, especially because the sun is dropping, we're pretty much going to be racing into the night. The track is losing some grip. I'm going to go back on my spring change. I changed oil and went to stiffer springs for the second qualifier, but I feel like I want to go a little bit backwards on that change, but not too far, because I felt like it was a good change. So I'm going to leave my oil at 65, but I'm going to let my chassis roll a little bit more by going back softer on my springs. So I'm going to go back to a yellow front spring and a blue rear spring. We're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes in the B main. Hopefully good vibes. We send it into the A main. All right, the B main went pretty good, and I was able to get a large enough lead at the end, especially that I could really focus on what my car was doing and how to make it better, because my lap time was pretty similar to the second qualifier. So still need to get that lap time down, need to get that overall lap time faster, and try to gain some speed to really beat some of these guys in the Pro Nitro Buggy A main. So one thing that was surprising to me was my tire wear. I put a brand new set of clays on there, and these tires wore a lot. Like the center pins of the octagon on a slide lock, they're pretty much gone, and they're not going to last a 25-minute A main. So glued a new set of tires, and for the sake of consistency, I'm going to go back out on a clay slide lock. I know it was a lot of tire wear, but I know what I'm getting. So I'm going to go back out on these clay slide locks. I'm just going to put a new set on. What I was able to determine and really focus on my car those last couple minutes is I am going to reduce the droop. I feel like there's too much weight transfer going on with my car, and that may be something that I've been fighting all day. So I'm going to reduce droop going into the A main to try to prevent some of that weight transfer happening. And then the other thing that I noticed is I was hitting the limits of the car in terms of how much I could steer. So when I was turning, I had to be very easy on my steering wheel, because too much was maximizing the capability of my shocks. So I'm going to go back up just on my front shocks from a yellow spring to a harder golder spring to try to allow the car to roll more as I'm turning. So hopefully these two changes, we can make some gains in the A main. You know, we're starting from the back, so nowhere to go but up, even though we won the B main. So starting 11th, and we're gonna see if we can get as high as we can get and hopefully gain a little bit more speed. So it wasn't the best results in the A main. The clay compound tire was just a bit too hard for the cooling conditions. I still had a few really good battles, but all in all, the car was just quite the handful. Also, with my shocks being as thick as they were for the high grip and temperatures from earlier in the day, it just compounded on the issues that I was feeling during the main. Nonetheless, I've taken some notes for the next time. If you guys like this video, please let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest Race Like a Girl content.